Welcome to the 31st episode of Honor Society, covering all things Ring of Honor. As always, live from No Cell Studios, I'm the Ace of the Tavern, Acefield Retro. And as always, joined by the Kentucky Waterfall himself, man, Colton at Mullet.Mania. What's up, dude?
Hey, what's going on, Ace? Man, just settling into a nice big packed week of wrestling, man. I'm going to Collision Saturday.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked. Great episode of Dynamite last night. Great episode of ROH tonight. So yeah, just getting in as much as I can this week.
Yeah, I didn't include it in the notes, but it seems like going forward, and I was reading through things that I think Tony Khan said in the conference call that the Collision live shows will also host these ROH tapings when they're not at Universal Studios. Did you hear that as well?
I didn't hear that, but I did kind of catch later in the show because it was the Daniel Garcia and the DKC match. They said it was from Colorado Springs, which had to have been taped earlier this week. And then they announced the Athena Kiera Hogan match as a Chicago street fight from the United Center next week. So yeah, it's unclear to me if it's going to be full tapings or they're just going to tape a match or two at a Collision taping. So yeah, going to be interesting to see what they do. So I'm excited if it is a full ROH taping on Collision. You know, I'm holding out hope that the Collision set is going to look a lot different from Dynamite set. I mean, I think that's kind of on everybody's wish list. So if that's the case, that'll kind of be cool. Give it a little bit more of a unique look other than just kind of the muted Dynamite presentation.
Yeah, we've noticed that throughout the last few weeks, if you guys have missed it and haven't been watching consistently, they've been, even if they're taping on a Dynamite, they'll be taping out of order. And I think that's strategic to maximize the lack of crowd effort or somehow get the maximum from the crowd. Who knows what the thing is, but we've noticed that, like, because we'll look at the spoilers and they'll tape in bulk and there'll be 32 matches taped and some of these will be taped out of order. And it's just, they're making a lot of work for themselves. But when we're watching this live, sometimes it's noticeable, sometimes it's not. The Universal tapings, not as much, but when it's at the Dynamite tapings, you can definitely tell what was taped much earlier in the night than later, because the crowd, by the time the end of the night happens, and this is probably part of the decision-making, the crowd thins out, as you know, with the ROH tapings. If it's happening before Dynamite, people were leaving. As we see the same thing with Rampage, that's kind of the issue.
Yeah, man, people just eventually, it doesn't matter how big of a fan you are, man. You hit hour 5 or 6 of being there, like you're getting tired, you're getting worn out, especially if it's at a Dynamite, it's a weekday tape in, 60% of the crowd's going to work the next morning.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to hearing what you hear about Collision and what you see in live and in person, because it's a different experience being there, and it'll be the ears and the eyes on the ground for us about CM Punk's authentic reaction. Because I know there's some conversation about, yeah, it's Chicago, but I mean, I was telling you, when I was at All Out in September, this is before the scrum, he was getting mixed reaction against Moxley. And I know he's a beloved character and all of that, but there was a murmuring. So I wonder if things have shifted, or maybe Chicago's galvanized behind him and that's going to be his safe haven while the rest of the world boos him. I'm curious to see how it goes, and I'm hoping for the best, man. I'm optimistic that things will work out, but this is a huge, huge thing for Saturday. They have to hit a home run here, and the card looks to me not as great advertised, but I'm hoping that this main event can steal and make people have a reason to tune in on Saturdays.
Yeah, man, I hope so too. I mean, I'm excited to go. With it being in Chicago, it's just like a 5-hour drive for me. It was a Father's Day weekend. What a better thing to do with my dad than let's go to the premiere of Collision. So I'm hopeful. I'll be interested to see what Punk's reaction is too, man, because he's a little bit more of a polarized figure than he was when we saw him getting mixed energy going up against Mox. So it'll be interesting to see what the reaction is. I don't know. They announced a couple matches on Dynamite that I think is going to make it a cool show. I'm excited to see Wardlow versus Luchasaurus, mainly just because I'm a huge Christian Cage mark, and I've actually, out of all the live wrestling I've seen in my life, I've never seen Christian live. So I'm fucking stoked to see him. So.
All right. With that being said, you guys can get all your Collision fix all different places, but we're here to talk ROH. It is AEW run, but we are going to stick with the 3 letters we know and love here. Let's get to the scoop and talk about the 2 news stories we have. Right here in the scoop, news of the week. You mentioned Dynamite last night, and our boy Eddie Kingston made his triumphant return on AEW Dynamite last night after being sidelined due to the hernia surgery. So he was part of that chaotic end of the closing angle, and we saw a whole bunch of stuff going on where the Blackpool Combat Club and the Elite Trios match kind of broke down after the finish, and he immediately gunned for Claudio, which has me thinking, first and foremost, we knew he would be ready. They announced him for the G1, which is a grind, a month-long grind of how many matches in a row. I'm so happy for him that he has the opportunity to do that. But following that, I think it's time to pick up the pieces of this Claudio program and reignite it. And it seems like that's what they're going to be doing. And maybe it wasn't the right place on Dynamite. I heard the critique on the flagship and on the wrap-up that maybe they should have just done this on an ROH taping. But I kind of liked how they put emphasis on all these storylines running into each other. And they kept a very consistent pace here where Kingston and Moxley didn't trade blows, which is very consistent to what of course they've had their matches, but they're friends. So I like that they did that. And it's nice to see they're continuing the Eddie Kingston Claudio feud.
I thought the same thing, man. And like, yeah, I understand the critiques, but at the same time, adding that layer of Eddie and Moxley kind of like going nose to nose and getting each other's faces, but not exchanging blows. Like you couldn't have done that if you just had him show up on an ROH show against Claudio. So yeah, I thought it was cool. It's good to see Eddie. It's when he went to the mat and kind of went at Claudio, it did look like he was kind of holding back a little bit. So I don't know if, maybe he's not 100% yet. I mean, a hernia surgery is a pretty, delicate thing. So I'm hoping that he's playing it smart and not going to, go right back into hurting himself. But I'm excited to see it, man. I mean, maybe we'll get to see it pay off at Death Before Dishonor, because that was one thing I was thinking tonight watching ROH TV is like, man, we're still a ways off. We've got until end of July. So we still got, a month and a week to build this card. But there's really been no development for the world title picture for Ring of Honor. So seeing Eddie back is a nice breath of fresh air for me.
And it's hard right now because obviously the BCC versus the Elite is a huge program on the AEW side, and the ROH title is tied up in that. And I know they probably have their ideas about where they want to go, and Death Before Dishonor is not too far away. It's about a little more than a month at this point from Trenton, New Jersey, which it's in my stomping grounds. Maybe I'll find a way in my busy schedule to make it there because it is appealing for sure if they make the card good enough and appealing enough to take the trek out to Dirty Jers. But the thing you mentioned as far as Kingston holding back a little bit, I agree. And what has me thinking that he is 100% ready is he would not be signed up for this G1 Climax if he wasn't ready. He has that match with Kenta on July 5th to kind of ease him in. He's wrestling for the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship against Kenta. So he's going to get that match. Then he's going to have about 6 or 7 matches if all things go his way in the G1 Climax. And then straight into the Claudio program. So no rest for Eddie Kingston off this hernia surgery. He's going to be right off to the races. There's nothing more grueling than the G1 Climax. And if you guys have not watched it, you guys should subscribe to New Japan World because it is the best month long. And maybe I'm biased. I just love that style of wrestling you're going to get on a Tuesday, a Wednesday night where they're just going to go back to back to back. And it's a war of attrition. We're going to see a 46-year-old Tanahashi in there and some new faces as well. Alex Coughlin's going to be in it. Zack Sabre Jr., a 2-time winner. The last 2 tournament winners was Okada. He'll be in there as well. We're going to get Kiyomiya in there, his first time in there. He's from Pro Wrestling Noah, and we know the feud there. So I love all the faces in there. It's going to be awesome to cover. And Eddie Kingston, as far as Ring of Honor goes, maybe off a G1 Climax win, he's going to be taking on Claudio for the ROH title at Death Before Dishonor.
Yeah, man, which better way to put the belt on him than coming off a heater and a great performance in the G1, man. Yeah, I was listening to Wrestling Tonight actually today and listening to you guys preview that tournament. Sounds incredible. And it's just the way Eddie likes it, man. Absolutely no rest for the wicked. Just grind. So.
Absolutely. So we'll keep you updated on Eddie Kingston. It seems like he's good to go. And welcome back, Eddie Kingston. Well, and he was missed, man, because as far as ROH, AEW, wherever he is, New Japan Pro Wrestling, we just need him in our lives because he's one of the best personalities and, welcome addition back to the roster. But let's get into our other story here. Not so good news. We have a guy we've been seeing on ROH TV for a bit. He's a producer on the AEW side. He's producing some stuff on ROH. BJ Whitmer. We saw quietly he was released by AEW. They released a statement because he was arrested on domestic violence charges. AEW released a statement. BJ Whitmer has been terminated following his arrest on domestic violence charges. While talent and staff are ultimately responsible for their own personal actions, this behavior is intolerable within AEW. AEW has reached out to offer support to those impacted by his behavior. So, BJ Whitmer is a guy who we know has been involved in ROH. He's a former ROH tag champion. He's been producing with the company since 2019, a nice role he had, a mind for the business. Things wind up being as described in the description of what he did, I hope he's gone from wrestling for good. So, horrible. And our thoughts go out to the victims and everyone that was involved in this on the other side of things. And hopefully BJ Whitmer can get the hope he needs to get better and reassimilate into society the better way.
Yeah, most definitely, man. This is definitely not the kind of news story you want to see coming up. I mean, we've seen BJ Whitmer as a judge on a pure match like as little as like 3 weeks ago, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, man. I mean, he got arrested in Boone County, Kentucky. It's Florence. It's like an hour, 20 minutes north of me here in Louisville. So right up the road. I knew he was from Owensboro originally. I did not know that he was still living here in the Commonwealth. But yeah, I hate to hear that. I mean, if what went down was what they said it was, yeah, I'm happy to see him blacklisted, man, because there's no place for that. And I also thought it was a really classy move of AEW to put out in the statement that, offering support to anybody impacted by his behavior, anything they can do to help. I thought that was a really, really classy touch.
Being that it's from your area, did you hear anything about this in the local news? Nothing like that? I mean,
no,
it's not a big
man.
enough celebrity, I guess, right?
Well, right. And I mean, I didn't hear. So I usually tune in to about a half an hour of local news each morning, just as I'm getting ready to go to work. And today, I didn't hear anything about it. Actually, when you sent over the news stories to me earlier today, it was the first I had heard about it. And I was like, oh shit, yeah, that's right up the road. So, I mean, I'm sure it made, as soon as I threw it in my Google machine, I saw it pop up. So I'm sure in Boone County, it made front page news 100%, because Florence is a pretty small town. Not really anything happens without everybody knowing about it. It's essentially, I mean, it's not far outside of Cincinnati. So I'm sure Cincinnati picked it up too.
Yeah, charges are pretty severe. Strangulation, second-degree burglary. This is a serious charges. And like we said, I mean, if these allegations are true, see you later, never come back, because it's just, there's no place for that in wrestling or otherwise. So, horrible news. Wanted to report it here. BJ Whitmer is alum here with ROH helping produce, and we won't be seeing him help out anymore. And maybe that's some of the shifting we've been seeing over the past couple of weeks with, they've obviously known about this since June 4th when he was arrested, but maybe they had an inkling that it was happening before, and they're restructuring. We see Dax Harwood involved on the collision side, Brian Danielson, obviously. They need new producers and other minds for the business. So maybe they're restructuring, and we'll see some other minds come over to ROH side helping with the programming.
Yeah, man, fresh people in ROH, I don't think is a bad thing. Yeah, it kind of makes you think. I wonder if, they had inklings of this before, if this had anything to do with kind of that super episode and some scrap tapings or anything like that. So, yeah, hard to say.
That's a good point, especially if he was producing, they didn't want anything with that. Maybe that is a very good point, Colton. Maybe they decided to cut anything with his name and just retape. And maybe that's why we saw them expedite the Sky Blue program with Athena and go another Kira Hogan program, I should say, with that. So, but let's get into the ROH TV results and talk about the episode we had here. And for the first time, we've had a cold open. Dasha was a busy woman tonight. Multiple interviews. She's been involved. I mean, how many segments did we count here? I think we should count as we go. So this will be the first one.
Yeah.
She was backstage with Matt Sydal. Sydal cut a pretty good promo here. And just really was putting his beliefs on the table that he was targeting Samoa Joe for a reason. They have a history and that he wants the TV championship. And then Dasha is on the other side with Samoa Joe. And then he cuts a very standard Samoa Joe promo, hyping up the match. But what did you think as far as the cold open into this? It kind of gave it a big feel.
Yeah, I like it, man. And I feel like, I think we've seen it one other time before. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was, I do like it. I like the cold open. It kind of, because if you're anything like me, you usually throw it up 4 or 5 minutes before it starts just to kind of have it ready to go. So I was, sitting on my computer doing things. It really caught my attention when it was, oh shit, earlier today we're talking to Matt Sydal instead of it just being, the video package and the music intro. So yeah, I like the feel of it. Kind of sets the tone. I hope to maybe see more of it, kind of see it become a standard thing, because, like we say, they pack a shit ton into these 2-hour plus episodes every week without a whole lot of segments or story building or anything like that. So I really enjoyed the cold open, kind of setting the stage for the first match tonight.
Yeah, 11 matches on deck here, and they were really setting the precedent that this match was important, and it was the opener. But before we got to that, we have Ian Riccaboni, Caprice Coleman, Nigel McGuinness welcoming us to Universal Studios. This is part of the Orlando package of tapings. As we mentioned, we may see some of the tapings happening as they've been talking throughout on this show, and then elsewhere. We've seen the news that Collision will be the new home for it, and some of the Dynamite tapings hosted some ROH tapings. So they are stringing these ROH shows together with some spool and thread, tying them together like a quilt. And we're going to see that. and we might have different arenas show up on the same show, something like that. But at the end of the day, we're getting ROH content and some stories being built here with Samoa Joe. And I think all roads for Samoa Joe lead to Forbidden Door, potentially against Zack Sabre Jr. That's maybe, I guess that's what they're doing, because we also got the hint with Orange as well. So it seems that they're going to do title for title at some point.
Right, man. And I think that'd be a great match. I would absolutely love to see it. I'm interested to see how the stringing together of tapings across multiple arenas go. Because like we got a little taste of it tonight we had that one match that was in Colorado Springs and everything else was at Universal Studios. And to be perfectly honest, I wouldn't even have really known if they hadn't called it out. So it'd be interesting to see if they continue to call that out going forward in the future. But yeah, man, I mean, this I kind of thought after last night that maybe we're going to see Zack Sabre Jr. in Orange, and maybe we're not going to see anything out of Joe at Forbidden Door. But hard to say, man. I mean, we've still got a week from Sunday for Forbidden Door.
Right.
I feel like they announced 60-70% of the card last night. So I mean, there's still room for a couple more surprises this week. So be interesting to see what they end up doing with Joe. This match, man. I mean, it was good, but it was not what it would have been in 2005. Solid opener, but man, I tell you what, I honestly expected a little bit more out of Sydal, not in Sydal's performance, but I mean, what offense that Sydal got in just really didn't seem to register with Joe. This was the Joe show, man, for sure. I mean, it was Sydal got a little bit in, but there really wasn't much. It didn't seem to phase Joe. It just seemed like this is not exactly how I thought they were gonna present this match. So I mean, Joe hits the muscle buster for the win. This is his 12th successful title defense. I mean, good showing of respect between the guys afterwards. But the way that they kind of built this up and kind of hyped Sydal, I expected him to kind of look like he was posing a little bit more of a threat to the title. What did you think?
Yeah, I agree. I thought we'd have more of a competitive match, and we haven't been seeing that with Joe a lot because Joe's been dominant. He's been the king of television on both sides when he was the TNT champ, and now when he's still the ROH TV champ right here. But what I took from this is that they're trying to get him ready for this Punk program or mini program, whatever they're doing. And I think as we have the Collision results from the 6-man tag match they have in the main event, people are going to be pairing off. Obviously, the Bullet Club are going to go against FTR, and then we're going to have Joe versus Punk in this mini feud. Think they want him to look as strong as possible, and maybe they didn't want any weakness coming off him, that Matt Sydal, and not take anything away from Matt Sydal, but the way he's been booked, he's been a tag guy. He's been kind of a wily veteran. He's gotten some wins over the past couple of weeks, but he hasn't been as dominant as Joe. And Joe going in here as dominant as possible, going into potentially mini or not, this Punk program is paramount to make it feel important. And it did the job. So, I mean, they built it up that it was going to be a more competitive match, as you mentioned, but this, by all intents and purposes, was the Joe showcase, and it wasn't a squash, not by any means, but I mean, Joe was dominant. There was not 1 second that you believe Joe could have lost the title here. And, there's been some matches where he's been challenged to the point where, yeah, there's a shot he could lose, but he's been as dominant as anyone's been booked over the course of the last few months for all companies. So he's been, aside from being choked up by Wardlow, I mean, at Revolution, I can't think of one time he's looked weak. So I think he's going to be taking some L's if he's going to be shooting with Punk, because I don't think Punk's taking some losses coming in. But goddamn, Samoa Joe looks strong to open the show.
Yeah, most definitely. And not to take anything away from Sydal. I mean, Sydal definitely hung in there with him for sure, but it just he didn't register much on what he got in. But yeah, I think you're right. I don't see Punk taking a lot of L's coming in. And I mean, I don't even think Joe getting choked out by Wardlow is looking weak, man. If that's the only thing we can think of, I mean, Wardlow's such a big dude, yeah, and he had it coming after cutting off his top knots,
Yeah, I mean, the one spot with Sydal hitting the Meteora, it wasn't even a near fall. Like we say 2.5. Some of the
he got a falls. 1 count, man.
Yeah, it was a 1 count. So yeah, like the fact they hit the Meteora, and they're really hyping up the Meteora as Sydal's finish. Last week he got the win with it and was really felt like everything. But I think the point of this match was to make Joe look strong, and Sydal did his job as a dance partner, and it was a good title defense, and the TV title should be defended on a weekly basis. It's almost done at that point. 12 title defenses for Joe, rivaling. I mean, it's not quite what Orange is at with the international title, but it's 12 defenses is pretty good for a title defense for Joe. We don't see a lot of him from week to week, but when he's out there, he's really grinding, defending this title.
Yeah, man, most definitely. And for a guy, I mean, definitely, you talk about Orange in comparison. I mean, Joe's got some years on Orange. So Joe with 12 defenses, I think puts him on par for sure. But yeah, good opener and great way to start the card.
So we move into our next match here, and this was Nick Camarado getting a chance at Deimos with Teal Piper. So we'll see Teal Piper again and Deimos again later on the card. But I looked up who Deimos was, just local Miami talent. On the older side, he's been all over the place and has worked in different promotions. So Nick Camarado, and I heard this, I think Dave Meltzer tweeted it about utilizing talent throughout the Forbidden Door in a different way, not just showcasing talent, but utilizing them if they're not being showcased here, similar to how Lance Archer was over in Japan prior to getting hurt. When you don't have something for him, especially these big guys, Nick Camarado has some size to him. He has some weight. I think putting him on, New Japan Strong, if you're not using him on AEW, ROH is a good spot for him. But if not, put him on New Japan side and let him work there. I think there's something untapped with him. I really do. I see it's a very good look. Of course, this match was, you're not going to see the full breadth of what he can do because this is just a showcase match where he pretty much took Deimos to task and hit all of his highlight moves here. But there's something there with Nick Camarado, and there's a reason he's hung on with AEW. I think I see what they see in him. I'm not sure if you see that as well. There's a unique look that nobody else on the roster has, and if they book it correctly, I don't know. I think they have something special.
I think so too, man. I mean, the guy's got a great look. I mean, he's built he reminds me of like Big John Studd, Hillbilly Jim. I mean, he's a huge guy and he's got great charisma, man. I mean, I think the guy, I think his gimmick needs a little bit of development, but I think he's got it. I think he's got the mic skills. I think he's got this, just a general kind of swagger to him. And I mean, I thought this was a decent match, man. I looked up Deimos as well. Like I'd never heard of the guy. I saw him, posted on ROH's Instagram earlier this week. This guy's got a pretty good look too, man. And I thought this was the first time. So this is probably the third time in 4 weeks we've seen Nick Camarado on ROH TV. This is the first time we've seen him paired with anybody remotely close to him in size, which I thought was cool too. I mean, Deimos got his stuff in, but yeah, so a really good showing for Camarado. I love the Alabama Slam as a move. I was always a big fan of Hardcore Holly hitting that. I think I love seeing Nick Camarado make it his own. But yeah, man, I'm with you. I think this guy needs to continue to get reps in to continue to develop and for him to really be what he has the potential to be, because I think you potentially got a star on your hands here.
Yeah, unique look. And I think that can be said across all promotions that not a lot of guys have that old school look. He looks like an old school, like 1970s wrestler. And there's a spot on the card for him. One thing I didn't like, I mean, he hit the Alabama Slam and he done like Deimos got his stuff in, but why with the feet on the ropes at the end of the match? I mean, I know it's a heel move. He is a heel. I just don't understand why. I guess it's just because he can. I guess that was what you should take away from it.
Well, I was thinking that, or is it just that are you trying to put over Deimos a little bit here and being like, oh, this guy is almost as big as Nick. Like this is the only way he's actually going to be able to cover him in the amount of time they've given him for the match. But I had the same note. I was like, yeah, he uses the rope for the win. Little odd there. Especially if you're going to use the rope for the win, I kind of wish you'd seen a little bit more of a reaction out of Deimos over it. And then, that sets us up for another dance with those guys next week. But yeah, kind of interesting choice.
So we're backstage with Dasha again, and this is her, if we're counting at home, the second time, or I guess third
technically.
Sydal and Joe are two separate times, but Dasha's backstage with the varsity athletes. So Smart Mark Sterling said that he secured time for Tony Nese to be on the show tonight, and he wants to get something off his chest. And now we're going to get Tony Nese, which again, love Tony Nese, NYWC grad. We, local to here on Long Island, love him. And I think he's another underutilized talent that deserves time. And we say this all the time. Ring of Honor is this extra production of content that you can have here, given time for a guy like Tony Nese. And I like what they do with Smart Mark, with him. I like the package of them. And when we see them in small pieces, Tony Nese stands out too, dude. Like he's a guy who looks like $1 million. So like, how is this guy not on TV weekly?
Yeah. Super jacked and tan. And I mean, tonight too on the mic, man, like later on in the show, we'll talk about it, but he did a great job. Like, I think Tony Nese is the total package. I do like him with Smart Mark. I kind of like to see separation from him and the varsity athletes. I don't think Tony Nese needs to be a part of a stable with Ari Daivari and Jeeves K and gosh, who am I forgetting?
Slim J.
Slim J. What also they've got? Who's the other varsity athlete? Gosh, is it Josh Woods? Yeah,
Oh, Josh Woods, right?
Love Josh Woods, but I really think Tony Nese can stand alone on his own, and maybe we're just not there yet because we're still, like I said, this is episode 31 of the Honor Society. We're not too deep into the new era of honor here, so there's still room to grow. But yeah, I'd like to see kind of Tony Nese kind of break off on his own. I also think I think he works as a heel, but I think he's got potential to be a pretty solid mid card babyface too. So yeah, I'm another guy I hope to see get a lot more time.
Yeah, solid on the mic tonight, solid in the ring whenever we see him, and makes the maximum out of every opportunity he has. But of course, we'll talk about him in a little bit when he takes on Serpentico. But let's get to the tag match next. We're seeing Boulder and Bronson, the Iron Savages, take on Rhett Titus and Tracy Williams. Lead the way through this match. Tell us what you liked about it. I like seeing Boulder and Bronson here. They had Jack Jameson in their corner as well, so I want to make note of that.
Yeah, man, I like these guys. I said it a couple of weeks ago when we saw him the first time. I don't know how I feel about Jack Jameson. I don't dislike the guy, but I don't know if you've got these two giant beefcakes already, do you really need a third one just coming out and kind of screaming all the way through their entrance music? Like, I don't really need these guys to have a mouthpiece. I don't need them to talk. Their size and their work really does all the talking that they need to. It just kind of seems like he's out there to be a hype man, and it's really not landing with the crowd very much. I mean, he got a little bit of reaction, but it's very stagnated. So I don't know. Interesting choice. Maybe it'll grow on me, but for now, Jack Jameson, not 100% sold, man. But
it's like being at the steakhouse ordering 2 steaks, and then on the side you order another steak instead of any sweet potatoes and some French fries. Like, I don't think you need 3 steaks, brother.
Exactly, and it's also the fact that these guys have all got some great size on them, but I mean the most defined, jacked one of them is the one that's coming out on the mic and not wrestling. Also seems kind of like a little just an interesting choice, but I digress. Williams and Bronson, man, these guys are. I liked this pairing between them with Rhett Titus and Tracy Williams because I love seeing Rhett Titus and Tracy Williams. I thought, you see big shows of strength early on from the Iron Savages, both Boulder and Bronson doing lateral presses with both guys and just dropping them in the middle of the ring. But yeah, man, Rhett Titus, Tracy Williams really held their own, really showed their veteran status tonight. A whole lot of beautiful tandem offense from them. I will say, I think it's which one is it? Is it Bronson or Bronson or Boulder? The one that does the kick out with the lateral press. This is the second. Bronson. That's Bronson. So second time we've seen it. He does it 3 times at once. That's too much for me, brother. I need once sells it fine. It's real gimmicky for me this early in your presentation to be doing 3 lateral presses, just 3 sequential kickouts.
Actually, it's Boulder.
Cover.
Boulder's the one that did
Boulder.
it.
Okay, yeah. It's once is cool, 3 is corny. 3's way too corny for me. But yeah, man. I mean, this was I thought this was a solid match. I thought it was a good showcase for both teams. There was a spot where Bronson basically sits on Tracy Williams while spiking Rhett Titus, which was just to be Rhett Titus and Tracy Williams size-wise a lot, quite a bit smaller than these guys, but they're ripped and they're for their size, and to be able to manhandle both those dudes like that is pretty impressive, man. So I thought I didn't think necessarily that the Iron Savages were going to get the win here, but they did pick it up here. So good showing for them. That does a lot for them in my book to get a win over Rhett Titus and Tracy Williams. But yeah, I'm not 100%. Like I said, I think these guys can go. I'm impressed with their ring work, but their presentation is still, I don't know. I'm not 100% sold on it.
I'll say I enjoyed the fact that it was a competitive match here. And you mentioned Titus and Williams. I don't know, there's something special about them on this ROH. They're a nice bridge from the old ROH to the new ROH, and I just like to see them here. And it was nice to watch a match where you didn't know who was going to win. Like, I think so often we see during these cards where it's not fully a squash match, as we mentioned before. It's not the WWF Superstars or Earthquake squashing a local talent from Orlando. It winds up being, a showcase match, as we mentioned before, where the guys are just getting their stuff in and making sure that they look strong. This match was competitive. In the time given, they both went back and forth. I like the finish as well. Bronson hit the Rikishi driver, which I always enjoy seeing that move. And the tag team cohesion between both teams was evident. Iron Savages hit the tag team senton for the win. I thought this was a good match. I mean, for what it was, and this is what ROH should be to me, like having matches that aren't going to be these, 60-minute Broadways, because you don't have time for that. It's only a 2-hour show, but for talent that you would not see on AEW getting some time to showcase what they can do, though they did a great job of doing it, and working with Red Titus and Tracy Williams, anyone's going to get better by doing that. So I love seeing it.
Yeah, man, 100%. Never get sick of seeing Tracy Williams and Red Titus.
So we have Dasha's 4th appearance here. She's backstage with the Workhorsemen. Workhorsemen are making it clear they're upset that FTR got involved in their business a few weeks ago. Clearly, FTR is not here, but their friend Mark Briscoe is. So Henry calls out Mark Briscoe for a match, little mini segment setting up a match later. I did enjoy that. Some story progression. They didn't ignore the fact that FTR was involved in programming the week before. FTR has their own stuff they're working on the other channel, but I like that they continued the story here, and Mark Briscoe is that branch extending to FTR. So I did enjoy that. But Dasha's 4th interview, probably the most important one we've seen.
Yeah, Dasha's first, and within the first hour too. So
yeah,
she's really getting it in, man. Yeah, I agree. I like this too. I love the continuation of the story week to week. Really nitpicky here, but one thing, ROH on their Instagram will post almost every match that's announced for the card, usually day of. They'll make a graphic for each one. They had a graphic for this, and I wish they hadn't. I wished it would have been organic from the segment backstage. Like, oh, we're just adding this match tonight, kind of giving, even though we all know it's taped. Kayfabe me a little bit, brother. Let me think exactly. Like, oh man, this is happening in real time. So, but yeah, I liked it. I thought JD Drake and Anthony Henry both did a good job on the mic. This is kind of the most we've seen out of them on a backstage segment with I thought they both seemed to be like pretty good stick men. So for some reason, because I haven't heard either of them talk, I thought maybe one of these guys was had a British accent, and no, they're both definitely from Georgia. So right. Glad I got that 100%. Cleared up for myself.
So yeah, I agree with that. I think giving similar to what I was saying about the Boulder and Bronson match, getting their time, and we talked about Tony Nese as well, getting time. This is the way you utilize your programming instead of just using squash matches to just push stories along in that way. I like when you showcase guys that you're not used to seeing this side, and like it speaks volumes that you weren't even know what their voices sounded like. So now we're getting that opportunity to extend that different sector of their character, where most people are used to seeing the Workhorsemen and just go out there and grind in the ring. But we're seeing this other side of them where they now have a voice throughout this programming. And Workhorsemen, they're great. You could use these guys to build any tag team division around. They're a perfect team to on AEW, ROH, any independent promotion. They are absolutely epic. So awesome to see here. And Dasha got the most out of all of them. And we're going to get the other thing is too, with the Workhorsemen, we're seeing a lot of these singles matches as well from them, not just this tag team stuff, which is awesome. They seem equal on both fronts. That they can either go out there, each side, Drake or Henry can go out there and damage you guys in singles action, or they can take you to task in a tag match. It's awesome.
Yeah, man, it's always nice to see a versatile team like that. And it's not just one of them that can handle themselves in a singles. They both can, which is great.
So we have Diamante next taking on Teal Piper. As I mentioned, Teal Piper was in the corner of Deimos earlier in the night, and we have Deimos in her corner in this match. Diamante is pretty sure she's all elite, right? She has a full all elite contract, so she's here for good. We see a lot of her. So ROH, when AEW Dark was around, she was around a lot. So we are very familiar with the act here. So she gets the submission with the very familiar straight jacket for the win. So this was Diamante's strength here, and she's someone that they could heat up at any given time to challenge Athena, I think, in my opinion. I think she has a good look. She could potentially be one of those mini programs, as we talked about with Sky Blue or with Kiera Hogan. Diamante could be next in that capacity, or you could even utilize her on Collision or on Dynamite, because I think she has a dynamic about her that you don't have on both rosters. I think she definitely has something as well.
Yeah, man, she's very explosive. I like her style. This is her third consecutive win on Ring of Honor TV, which I think, speaks volumes. She's really getting there. And, as she was exiting the ring, going up the ramp, it was, they were going to the next segment and you barely caught it. But she says, Tony Khan, I need better. So I like how she's kind of calling her shot. And
that's
already,
her ride back, feed me more moment right there.
Yeah, I like it.
I need better. I don't know. It has the same.
It doesn't really have the same.
It doesn't have the same. But yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it did its job. We were just kind of ripping on the squash matches, but did his job. Teal Piper obviously was in there to do one thing and one thing only, and was make Diamante look strong, and that's what she did. So Diamante got some heat too. Like, she was getting some heat from the Orlando crowd. They were not happy to see her taking Piper to task with crossface forearms in the corner, just absolutely just tearing her up in the corner, and she did her job.
Yeah, I haven't really seen much of. I haven't really seen any of Teal Piper's work. I mean, always love to see a second generation come through. So hopefully we get to see a little bit more of Teal Piper, because I mean, I imagine apple can't fall too far from the tree. Your dad's Roddy Piper. You gotta have a little shine in there, just waiting to be seen.
So we have the Tony Nese promo that we talked about before. Mark Sterling had said that he will have time on the mic. Varsity athletes come out together. Nese grabs the mic, and he just makes clear that the varsity athletes have worked so hard and they want to earn the respect of the fans. And Nese says the fans don't respect them because the fans can't relate to us. We look better than you. We're jacked. We're athletic. You guys are all essentially the low-hanging fruit of, you guys are fat, lazy wrestling fans. So they decided they want to do group exercises in the ring, which was hilarious. And they're doing a few stretches, and they get cut off by Serpentico's music. And I like this. This was funny, and it was showing the side of Tony Nese that could be humorous. I thought this was really well done.
I liked it too. Yeah. Quote, fat, disgusting pieces of trash. And he hit it 2 or 3 different times. Yeah. And also, like, the crowd was into it, man. They, I like this type of, some people call it cheap heat. I just think it's classic healing off on the crowd, man. And I thought he did a great job of it. The crowd was into it too. Everybody got on their feet. Most people were doing the stretches with them. I mean, most people bent over and touched their toes. I don't think anybody was getting down and doing a push-up. I don't think there's that much space in Universal Studios. But yeah, I thought this was a really cool, man. And then also kind of interesting, almost kind of presents Serpentico as a babyface here, because they're healing off on the crowd, and then his music hits and it stops it, which was like, if you'd asked me, at the beginning of the show, hey, how are you going to come in and present Serpentico as a face? I would not have had an answer. So yeah, good job to the booking team, whether that's, whether that was Stokely or Jerry Lynn or Tony, either way, good work.
So the next athletic contest here, I mean, this was back and forth, and they both went out there and worked really hard for the time allotted. Crowd was chanting "We eat hot dogs" during the match very loudly during this. So the crowd was involved, as you mentioned. They were happy to be there. And that's the benefit of being in Orlando. The crowd has some personality, a flair to it, that they understand the ROH product, where you can't say the same thing, whether it's fatigue or lack of familiarity with the product. We don't get that on the AW taping. So I'm hoping that Collision, if they do that, it's done in a more strategic way when the crowd's not as fatigued. Maybe just end the night with Dynamite and do ROH. And I mean, it's possible you could do ROH earlier since Dark's not happening anymore. I don't know. Something needs to change with those tapings. I'm very pessimistic on potentially what it would look like at the AW tapings, because you look at it right here. A match between Tony Nese and Serpentico got a decent reaction from them. And even though all these guys, working hard in the short period of time. How long was this match? I mean, it wasn't that long here because we have to fit 11 in 2 hours.
Right.
They were able to fit a lot of stuff in this match. Like, if you were just watching either one of these guys for the first time, they caught your eye, and that was a good thing. I mean, the end got Nese with the running knee for the win, but there was some really good stuff here where Nese hit the German suplex into the corner, and the Gamangari was an awesome move as well during this match. And Serpentico, in a losing effort, looked great too. Like, I thought it was really well done.
I did too, man. I thought this is the best we've seen Serpentico look, and since we've seen him on ROH TV. But yeah, man, that German suplex from Nese, it was real low. It tossed Serpentico's head right onto the bottom turnbuckle. It was awesome. But yeah, I mean, like you said, man, what they did with, I mean, this couldn't have been from the opening, from the healing off on the crowd group workout segment to the end of this match. It couldn't have been more than 8 or 9 minutes. And I mean, they packed a lot and told a lot of story into it, which I thought was great.
So we have number 6. This is 6, right, for Dasha backstage?
Is it 5 or 6?
Oh, 5. So
I think it's 5.
Number 5, she's back there with Kira Hogan. And instead, it wasn't Kira Hogan. It was Athena with a blue wig on. And before Athena can get a lot of her words out, Kira Hogan came in later out with a forearm. And yeah, so now they're, Athena with a blue wig's now on the ground. Maybe the wig fell off, whatever. But Athena just showing a different side of this heel character. She could be comedic. She could be insulting. I mean, I can't say enough good things. I can't throw enough superlatives at the women's champion for ROH with Athena. She's absolutely awesome. And I'm kind of here for this mini program with Kiera Hogan. I think it has some weight to it. And do I think Kiera Hogan's going to win the women's championship? Absolutely not. Not happening. But I think we saw the results of how good this has been for all the women's division. We saw Sky Blue be featured in a prominent way against Toni Storm last night on Dynamite, and people believe she could win. And whether that has anything to do with the Athena thing or not, or people want to believe it or not, it does, because she has confidence now from working this program with Athena. She's been presented in a new way. And even if you're not watching the ROH side of things, Sky Blue looks different. And I think Kiera Hogan will be better for it as well. And she looks different as well. And I think everybody's getting better from working with Athena. And it's been quite clear that the women's division is thriving on the ROH side.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I thought this was a fun segment too. I liked just kind of the mind games from Athena kind of coming at Kiera Hogan here. It was a quick segment. Kiera comes in later out. And, my first thought was like, oh man, that's kind of a weird way to end the segment. Kind of leaves Kiera Hogan looking like she's got the upper hand. I'm like, oh, this can't be the end. We got to see more of this tonight. So yeah, really, I'm liking the progression of story development throughout the show, which seems like we're kind of getting a little bit more of week to week.
So we have another women's division match here. Miranda Elise was taking on Notorious Mimi. You guys might know Notorious Mimi from NXT days, Sloane Jacobs. I'm familiar with Notorious Mimi. She works Victory Pro Wrestling near me, so she's been involved in that promotion. She was just there the other day. It didn't work, but Travis Jacobs, who she travels with sometimes, is there as well. So she was there, just saw her. So I guess she made the trip over to Orlando and hit these tapings up. But she was enhancement talent here. Notorious Mimi has a good look. She's someone who was pretty prominent on the NXT brand before being released. So it wouldn't shock me to see her do big things again. But for right now, Miranda Elise was the one looking strong here. We saw a little bit from Mimi. She hit that good bicycle kick. She hit a reverse TKO in the middle of the match. But Elise did all the good stuff here. I mean, she hit the cutter and then hit the drive-by knee, similar to the Nice knee, but not as much emphasis, a different variation of it. That was Elise's finisher. I think she used a different finish a couple weeks ago, but this was a different finish, what she's calling the drive-by knee now. So with Miranda Elise, she's another person you're heating up for this women's division. I think it's awesome. And how many of the wrestling promotions do you watch that have 4 or 5 women's matches on any card? And this one, I think, has 3, 4.
Yeah.
And every week it's around that number. And that's saying a lot.
It's a minimum of 2 every week. We have not had a single episode of Ring of Honor that has had less than 2 matches. But yeah, you're right, man. It's usually 3 to 4. So after this week, I've heard Miranda, and I'm calling out Riccaboni and Caprice here. I've heard him pronounce her last name 2 different ways. I've heard it as Elise and Alizé. I don't know which one it is. I kind of like the way Alizé sounds, but either way, I heard him say Alizé this week. So I'm not sure. I need to do a little research and see which way she prefers it to be pronounced. But yeah, man, I think they're heating her up super well. I mean, this, I like we say, ROH doesn't do the, just total flat and squash. Mimi didn't get a lot in here. Only thing, she did get 1 cover. It was only for a 1 count. But yeah, I think the next progression naturally is maybe we have Miranda, Alizé, or Elise go up against Diamante, because I mean, these are 2 women that they're heating up that I think would pair very well together, have very similar styles, both really explosive. I'm looking forward to seeing that match.
Yeah, I think Nigel McGuinness said Elise, and
okay.
Ian Caprice might have said Elise too, but Alizé sounds more. I think it sounds
like more accurate.
Yeah, I think it sounds more accurate. But apologies to Miranda. Don't hit us with the drive-by knee.
Please.
So we'll get your name right next week. Alizé. I think that's what we're going to stick with. I think that's the, Nigel McGuinness is still new with the commentary stuff. So we got to take Ian's word for it.
Take it easy on him. Plus, he's from across the pond. He pronounces everything a little different.
Exactly. So we have a 6-man tag match here. Stu Grayson and the Righteous, which is Dutch and Vincent, taking on Dalton Castle and the Boys, which Brendan Brent of the Boys. Love to see the presentation of Dalton Castle and the Boys. They are pro wrestling personified. But it's not their night, man. This is about Stu Grayson, the Righteous. Run us through this match.
I got to say, I never get sick of seeing their entrance. Dalton Castle spinning around with the cameraman and telling the cameraman, spin with me. And this is the first time you're doing it and you're doing great. Was just, man, it just doesn't get any better. I absolutely loved it. Man, this was a good match. I mean, I feel like everybody that goes against Dalton Castle and the Boys kind of have the same strategy. It's where you neutralize Dalton Castle early on. and then you kind of pick apart the boys. I did. So beginning of the match, backtrack a little bit here. Code of Honor adhered to, I don't know if it was Brent or Brandon, but whichever one was shaking hands with Dutch, I don't know if you noticed it, but they had to like put their leg up on Dutch's arm, kick them off of him because he was crushing their hand. I just thought that was it's the little things, man. With all 6 of these guys, they all do such a good job of storytelling. But like I said, neutralizing Dalton Castle early, Stu Grayson Dalton Castle's chasing Vincent around outside of the ring, and Stu Grayson shoves him into the ring post, man. And I thought for a minute he was knocked out. Like, I mean, it was a really, really stiff hit. This was, and then at this point, it's just kind of an all out brawl, man. And it all just kind of falls apart there. We get Grayson and Vincent hit an offensive flurry to Brandon for a near fall. Brandon fought for a tag to Brent, but Grayson immediately cuts him off with a lariat. After some clobbering on Brandon, Castle's tagged in hot and runs wild on all 3 Righteous members, man. You can tell that he's hot about getting taken out early, and he kind of takes it to all 3, Vincent, Dutch, and Stu there for a little while, sends them flying with some suplex. He actually suplexed Stu Grayson into Dutch, which I thought was awesome. So he tags in Brandon, but Dutch takes out Castle by throwing him into the stairs. Righteous took Brandon out with a triple team slam, and them kind of circling Brandon in the ring just reminded me of like a pack of hyenas, man, picking apart a gazelle or something. It was really kind of eerie to watch. But yeah, man, the Righteous and Stu Grayson pick up the win here. Just continuing, and I think that these guys, it obviously looks like the 6-man division's going nowhere. I know that was kind of in question with us for a few weeks, but I think, Stu Grayson and the Righteous are a force to be reckoned with, man. I mean, commentary team keeps, making note every week of how seamless they are and how well they flow together with as little a time as they work together. And yeah, this was no different. Stu got the pin this week, which was different. Last week kind of Stu did the dirty work and Vincent picked up the pin. So I thought this was cool to kind of or interesting and definitely intentional on Vincent's part to have Stu probably take the win here. But yeah, I thought it was a good match.
Seems like we're ticketed for the match against the Embassy without a doubt. And I think it was no coincidence, like you said, that the match had Stu Grayson get the pin, and they looked strong against a former trios champs or 6-man champs, I should say, on the ROH side. And also in the main event, the Embassy looked as vulnerable as they've ever looked in any match. I mean, of course, they retained, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but we don't really see them in competitive matches, but the fact that they were taken to the limit makes me feel like, and again, as a fan, I think if they're putting the pieces together, that they're getting them ready for a program with Grayson and the Righteous, or we're going to call them the Righteous altogether. And the Righteous are going to walk out with the 6-man titles, and for the better, because I think Brian Cage needs to go on to do different things and potentially challenge for a different championship, maybe on the AEW side. And with the other guys, with Leona and Tongaloa, they need to be involved in something else as well. I think the 6-man titles have been so stagnant, and the irony is that they took them off Dalton Castle and the boys as well. Too, the last, we saw that at the whatever pay-per-view that was for ROH.
Super Card of Honor, yeah.
Super Card of Honor. It's been so long at this point. Nothing's really been done with them aside from this merger with Swerve Strickland and all that. It seems like this was intentional, having them beat Dalton Castle and the boys pretty decisively, getting them ready for Death for Dishonor, where the Righteous and Stu Grayson are going to take those 6-man titles. And I would put money on that. I think that's going to happen down the line, and they look like they're ready at this point. I mean, they're a nice package here, and the 6-man division isn't great. Not a lot of depth. They could, as we see week after week, there are some other 6-man matches that throw together, but I think the money feud right now is between those 2 teams, and I think we have something with that, and that's something we couldn't have said last week.
Yeah, man, 100%. I mean, talk about Dasha getting her work in, man. Segment 6, right after this, she's backstage with Dark Order. Basically, we've got Uno does most of the talking here, but basically, they said they're tired of sitting down, letting people bail on them. They question whether the Righteous loyalty to Stu, and wondering if, they're willing to bleed for him. They're willing to have his back. They're willing to, be there for him when he's at his lowest. And they kind of say they'll find out soon enough. So, kind of an impending doom promo from Dark Order towards Stu and the Righteous. So, like I said, we've got some time, quite a bit, about 5 weeks, probably 5-6 weeks here still between now and Death Before Dishonor. So sounds like we probably got a little bit more meat on the bone with Righteous and Stu versus Dark Order in a trios. So I'm here for that too.
Just correcting myself when I was talking about the embassy. Bishop Khan is named, not Tongalo is the guy from the New Japan Pro Wrestling side. So Leona is the right name, but it's also Bishop Khan as his partner, and they're an awesome presence as well. So I want to make sure I get their names correct. But moving on to this Proving Ground match, and this is apropos because last night we saw the Eliminator version of this type of match. Two different types of things here, clearly. So if Adora lasts 10 minutes or wins, she'll earn a title match in the future. And with the Eliminator last night, as we saw with the finish with MJF and Adam Cole, which was a great match, they went 30 minutes to the limit, and a draw does not earn you anything. You get nothing. As Willy Wonka would say, Gene Wilder would say, you get nothing, goodbye. Adam Cole goes to the back of the line. And we haven't seen these Proving Ground matches reap any challengers. And I think that's damaged a little bit of it, especially where eventually one of these women has to beat Athena. And that's not when you want her pinned, but they should last. I think they should last against her. By accident, maybe. I don't know. She plays with her food too much, something like that. But, Athena here, I mean, I was saying before her superlatives about how great she is. She's everything and more as far as the women's division. I think she's shining brighter than anyone on AEW side as far as women's go. But what were your thoughts on this match? I mean, obviously Athena got the win with the O face, but there's some stuff in between that Adora looked pretty good, I would say.
Yeah, I thought Adora looked good. They really, you set it up really nicely, Ace. They really teased us with the fact that she could get it tonight. It was a really slow start to this match for it being a Proving Ground and for being, if Trish Adora gets the 10 minutes, she gets the shot. Because, I mean, 3 minutes in, man, really little to nothing has happened besides a couple of double wrist locks. And, so yeah, they really, and I that had to have been intentional, but yeah, I mean, they really kind of made it seem like, oh shit, Trish might go the 10 minutes here. I didn't think at any point that she was, I thought there was a couple of chances where I thought she might have it, but I was like, I can't really see anybody getting a pin over Athena right now, but I thought Trish had, Trish kind of ran the pace of this match, which was the first time that we've seen anybody do that to Athena in a Proving Ground match. So it gave me a little bit of hope that she was going to pull it off and at least go the 10, because it went, I didn't get a chance to look at, I didn't time this one, but it got damn close to 10 minutes when she hit
I think it was eight and change, I believe.
Yeah. So it was very close. It just, there was some flurries of offense from Trish Adora. It was great, man. She hit basically Athena gets in her face and starts calling her a porcelain doll and shit talking her. And she hits her with a German. So she on her knees hits a German suplex, gets up into a spinning backbreaker, into a big boot. And it just kind of broke my heart, man. That I'm half hot about this being the third Trish Adora match that I've seen without a Lariat Tubman. It sucks. I love that finisher and I want to see it. I'm getting robbed of it. This is almost a month without it, seeing her every week. So Tony, Jerry, Stokely, somebody do something about that for me, please. But yeah, they got real close to us getting somebody at least a 10-minute, and they just kind of ripped it away from us, which I think is also, great storytelling, great building for Athena. But it was a real tease for me tonight.
Agreed. And I think 10 minutes is not too unattainable, and we're getting closer and closer. And as weeks go on, Athena's getting a little bit more exposed. Like she's having a little bit more offense done to her every single week. And I think all these mini feuds, whether it be the Sky Blue feud or now the Kiera Hogan feud and all these other matches she's had along the way, have chipped away at the armor a little bit of her. And I think this is going to add to it. Even this match against Adora, she, despite having all the ego at the end and feigning the code of honor, and then she lands the forearm on Adora, there was no rest for her. Kiera Hogan was right out there to make her ring, and she had the trash can in hand, and Hogan was all over her with the brawl, and Athena was fighting off security. So it feels like the walls are kind of closing in on Athena, which is a nice dynamic on this reign because she's been so dominant. She's still dominant at this point, but it feels like she has a little bit more to lose, and she has a little bit more of this vulnerability that we haven't seen from her. from the whole roster that seems to be rallying around her to like, all right, we all should team up at this point and take out this person who's disrespecting not only the 3 letters of ROH with not doing the code of honor, and she's not being an honorable champion by any means. She's cheating to win. And also she's disrespecting the women's division, holding that title hostage. So I think we're going to see a lot of these women team together, whether it be someone like Willow, Trisha Dora, Sky Blue, Kiera Hogan. They're all going to get a crack. And I think the other crazy thing is too, I like these proving ground matches. And I think eventually we're going to see someone last, and it's going to mean a lot. And it's going to be something that continues, where Athena has done this beautifully, where she has a couple feuds going on at one time. And they've been doing that really well for her, where she's involved in this mini program with Kiera Hogan, but at the same time, she's also involved with other people on the roster. And that's also it's challenging to do, to weave that web of telling stories consistently. But that's a sport contest right there. Like you never just are singularly focused on one. If you're the champion, there should be other people coming at you. And that's what I was thinking about. A lot of times in wrestling, we get so stuck on this person slotted for it. This is the pay-per-view match. But on the road there's proving ground matches. I feel like she's been really challenged down the line. And as dastardly as she's been as champion, she's also been very challenged, more so than any champion on any brand.
Yeah, completely agree, man. I mean, she's setting herself up for these proving ground matches too, which you don't see any other champion doing. We've seen Claudio give one out the entire time that he's been champion, So, yeah, it'll be somebody's going to get it over on her here sooner or later, man. They're going to have to. It's just a matter of time.
So we have Mark Briscoe and Anthony Henry with JD Drake in his corner. This match was set up earlier in the night, obviously based on, as we talked about before, the FTR run-in. Mark Briscoe is the loose tie, as being friends with FTR. So we had a fun match here, man. Like, they immediately go outside of the ring and brawling around the ring, emphasizing the strength of Mark Briscoe by just fun, chaotic matches. Like, that's when Mark Briscoe's at his best, and Anthony Henry was adapting to that style. Some good stuff here. Briscoe hitting a chop to the throat, the whatever he calls the redneck karate, redneck jiu-jitsu,
kung fu.
Redneck kung fu, anything but kung fu is what I said. But kung fu is what it is. The redneck chicken. Firing up some good stuff here. And we thought we were going to get the finish here with the J Driller. Henry transitioned out of it. We got a near fall with the neck crank and dragon sleeper. We thought maybe the false finish for Anthony Henry going to choke out Mark Briscoe. The facial expressions on Briscoe are so great. Man, when he's in danger, we talked about this during that Samoa Joe match where he was pulling on our heartstrings, and we thought he would power out when he was eventually just put to sleep with that choke from Joe. It looked like that was going to be the case here. And we got back and forth, and Briscoe hit a lariat and then hit the J Driller for the win. Great match for both guys. Mark Briscoe, the right guy to go over, but Anthony Henry's no worse for the wear for this finish. And we saw the Froggy Bow get attempted, but not hit, which I do enjoy. You mentioned the Larry Tubman. The Froggy Bow has that special place in my heart for it to be hit. At least we saw it get hit, like it didn't connect on Anthony Henry, but at least we got to see it executed.
Oh yeah, I always love to go see a good attempt on the Froggy Bow. Yeah, I mean, I thought this match was great. I always love a good match where it's like, oh man, I don't really know who's going to win. I was right there with you. The submission work we saw from Anthony Henry tonight was really, really good, man. The guy is better than I would give him credit for, just not seeing any of his singles work except for the last few weeks. So yeah, I thought it, like you said, he's no worse for wear at all. He had a great showing tonight, and to be able to go to, kind of go the distance with Mark Briscoe right there, it's got to do wonders for your singles reputation. So yeah, solid match.
So we have a segment here where Tony Khan notes this match will be from Colorado Springs, Colorado, which was 2 weeks ago from Dynamite. If you guys remember, the Orange Cassidy Swerve Strickland international title match opened up that show. So he introduces the board of directors, Stokely Hathaway and Jerry Lynn. Jerry Lynn was noted that he's going to be a judge for the Pure Rolls match. And Tony Khan continued to talk about the match between Daniel Garcia and the DKC, and also continued to talk about other matches going on. So doing the promoter job here. Less of an on-screen character than we were seeing the week before. So it's a step back in the direction of what we're used to seeing Tony Khan, kind of in his quote unquote comfort zone of what he was presenting himself as, but building up. And I also kind of like this. It was a summation of everything going on the card, where they're talking about the 6-man titles, the women's championship. They're talking about everything else going on. And it brought everything together. It felt like a very all right, let's take a break for a second, figure out where everything lies, And it was this is kind of the benefit of having authority figures on your screen.
Yeah, man, I thought this was cool. You can definitely see that Tony seems like he's getting a little bit more comfortable with it. I liked bringing Stokely in here. I mean, yeah, man, when I saw this match announced, this was probably the match that I was most excited about on the card. So yeah, this one was really, really great.
So the other thing they announced before we get into the match was Hathaway said that it's going to be Athena versus Kiera Hogan in the Chicago street fight next week. So which means that they're taping that at Collision 100%, right? Because that's in Chicago. So this is not an Orlando taping. Maybe the whole show will be taped in Chicago. I'm not sure where they're at as far as spoilers go. I try to avoid them so I can enjoy the product organically, but it seems like it's going to be taped this Saturday.
I don't think so. The reason I mentioned this earlier at the top of the show was because, they were saying this match was coming from Colorado Springs. So this match itself was taped before Dynamite, but not the entire show was taped before Dynamite. So I think they're going to do something similar, because on my tickets for Collision, it says 6:00. So if they're going to start dark matches at 6:00, that's Central Time. So that's only an hour before they go live. So, I mean, it didn't say anything about 5:00. So I think they were only going to have an hour of dark matches before Collision actually starts. So I'm going to assume it's going to be probably this one, maybe a couple of others, but yeah, I don't think it's going to be a whole ROH show, which is good. I really hope that strategy isn't long term, and that's just going to be for this first stretch of Collision shows that we've got booked. Maybe we eventually go back to Orlando.
Yeah, that's the tendency to possibly become messy with how you tape shows, and like you're going to tape this show here, and this one was done at Dynamite, this one's at Collision, and this one was done in Orlando. All of a sudden, you're patching a lot of shows together, and if they could figure it out, they have the team in place and the infrastructure to make sure everything doesn't get lost. Why not? But you're making the job a little bit harder than it has to be. But it might make matches like Athena Kiera Hogan, if it's just one match, the crowd will be up for it, and you'll get more of that main event type feel. But at the same time, you're going to sacrifice what the TV program looks like, because the cohesion will be. Yes, we all know it's taped, as you mentioned before, but there's a level of like, come on, let's suspend a little bit of belief that this is something that I'm experiencing as an event. It would just feel like a compilation package, which is not something wrestling fans really enjoy. So I'm not sure what the answer is.
Yeah, I hope that's not what they do, because now that I'm thinking about it, man, I really hope that they don't do an hour of taping before Collision and then an hour of taping before Dynamite for the same show. Also, because that really pigeonholes you into like an hour ain't that much time, brother. Like if you're really, if we're
we see right now, over an hour.
Exactly. You can go over an hour real quick without trying very hard. So yeah, I don't know. It makes me a little bit nervous, but we'll see how it goes.
So the Pure Rules match is next. Daniel Garcia defeated the DKC, Dylan Kyle Cox from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Just to kind of give you the parameters here, Excalibur and Matt Menard, also a fellow member of the JAS, was on commentary for this match. Our judges at ringside, Jerry Lynn, as we mentioned, he is part of that as well. But we also have Dean Malenko and Chris Daniels. So love to see those three guys. No BJ Whitmer, so obviously not going to be involved anytime soon. But BJ Whitmer, as you mentioned, has been involved as these Pure Rules judges. And man, can you get three better names than Jerry Lynn, Dean Malenko, and Chris Daniels judging a match? Just having them at ringside is something else.
No, man, absolutely not. I cannot think of a better trio to have sitting at that judges table for a Pure match.
So the crowd was immediately going after Daniel Garcia, chanting "You're a wrestler" at him, which is a chant that's really gotten over the past couple months. DKC took it to him. This was a fun match back and forth. And if you enjoy Pure Rules, these guys really, to me, it was very entertaining. I enjoy, and the more you understand about the Pure Rules, and I think we watched a lot of them over the course of a couple of weeks. And if you go back to the first one that they showed on the Death for Dishonor pay-per-view, and a lot of fans, and I watched with some people that weren't as familiar with the Pure Rules, it could kind of not lull you to sleep, but it's an unassuming type of thing. And I think the tension gets built differently than a lot of different matches in a Pure Rules match, where if you're not paying attention, the drama isn't there. So you kind of have to be locked in. And the announcers did a good job. Excalibur does such a fantastic job of setting the stage and making sure you understand how many rope breaks are left and what does that mean, and how bad is it that Garcia just broke the rules where he shouldn't have, and like the emphasis on following the rules. But yeah, I enjoyed this match, and this at the end of this match, obviously we have the Dragon Tamer for the submission win from Daniel Garcia. He sat in Shibata's pose after the match, which has me believing potentially Forbidden Door, Daniel Garcia versus Shibata. I know Shibata is not completely New Japan Pro Wrestling. We've seen Shibata over the course of past couple of weeks, or maybe we'll just see it here on ROH in a couple of weeks. That might be the case as well.
Well, we saw on Dynamite, it sounded like Daniel kind of called his shot that he wants it, or at least I don't know if it's going to be Forbidden Door or not, but he wants another shot at the title, at the pure title versus Shibata. I would love to see it at Forbidden Door. I think that also, we talked about when Shibata first came to ROH, maybe this is, I'm hoping Tony's given him this opportunity to show that, he can do business and, maybe get him back in the good graces with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So, maybe this would be a show of good faith. Would love to see that. But yeah, man, this match was awesome. This is my first time seeing the DKC. So really liked what I saw of this guy. Another guy out of the LA dojo. Good shit, super brutal, ridge hand chops. But yeah, he hit the Daniel Garcia with the Dragon Tamer for the win. He also hit a code breaker and then pulled him up. He probably could have finished it right there. I thought that was some great heel shit, man. I just absolutely love Daniel Garcia, and he's a perfect addition to the pure division. I'm hoping, I can't wait to see him versus Shibata too. So.
Yeah, I mean, the more that we're breaking it down, I think they should probably save it for Death Before Dishonor. They need to fill that card out. It's not too far away, but I would selfishly like to see the pure rules be showcased on a huge stage like Forbidden Door, but we'll see what happens in that regard. But we had another move here, the Rings of Saturn from DKC, which is a move we don't often see. There's variations of it. Of course, the Salt of the Earth armbar that we get from MJF we see sometimes, but Rings of Saturn is such a deep armbar that someone else has to break that out. And I'm sure it made Dean Malenko at ringside smile, because that's, former stablemate in the Radicals with Perry Saturn. Great submission. Would love to see someone else break that out, and just pop me, because it's such a specific type of armbar that the DKC broke out. And shout out to Perry Saturn, who one of my favorites back in the day, ECW, WCW, WWE, fell in some hard times now, but thoughts are with him for sure. But love the Rings of Saturn.
Yeah, most definitely. Also a huge Perry Saturn fan growing up. So great to see that move.
So Dasha's backstage again for number, I think, 7, right? At this point?
This would be 7, yeah.
She's with the Mogul Embassy, and they're just talking about their dominance and setting up the stage for the main event later tonight. And then we have a quick match with Sky Blue, fresh off her Dynamite match against Viva Ven. And of course, we're back in Universal Studios for this one. The original announce team is there. Ending saw the Skyfall for the win. Some back and forth. Van did get a couple of moves in on Sky Blue. Hit the Meteora, got a near fall. She blew up an electric chair, but Blue rolled through on it. So that's pretty much the extent of the offense we saw from Viva Van. Sky Blue keeping the heat on her a little bit here. Like I mentioned last night, she looked great on Dynamite. She looked great. And I think they can thank ROH and the confidence she's building by getting reps, working with people outside of just doing dark matches. She's working meaningful matches with Athena over time, and she's just getting better for it. And it's obvious here that there's a confidence to her that instead of being on the other side of the squash, she's there as a formidable challenger for the women's championship on any brand, on both, AEW and ROH.
Yeah, I was very impressed with her showing against Tony last night. I thought she exceeded my expectations for sure. This match was kind of a weird spot on the card. I didn't know if we really needed it. And to be perfectly honest, Viva Van got a lot. She got more in on Blue than I thought she maybe should have.
Right.
But still Blue, that Skyfall was perfect hit for the win. So yeah, good on her. Hope to continue to see her on ROH TV.
So in the main event here, the 6-man tag team championships are on the line, and the Mogul Embassy, Bishop Khan, Brian Cage, Toa Leona with Prince Nana in their corner, take on Action Andretti, AR Fox, and Darius Martin. As I mentioned before, this is the most we've seen anyone get on the Embassy. And I think in turn, it was probably their best match we've seen as far as a unit goes. Match was great. And I love the tandem of AR Fox, Darius Martin, Action Andretti. There were moments in the match where they made us believe potentially they were going to walk out new champions. There were some really close near falls, which is all you can ask for, because there was not an ounce of me prior to this match when entrances hit that we were going to have a title change here. But they had me suspending belief here. Cage hitting the Weapon X for the win on Andretti. Andretti seems like the obvious choice to get pinned here out of the three of them. Darius Martin there. I think Darius Martin has eaten a lot of pins, so saving him up a little bit. But I think we've gotten a formidable unit between Andretti, AR Fox, and Darius Martin that was a throw together. And I think this was probably the best 6-man title match we've had on the new ROH by a lot, because this was competitive and it wasn't just the Mogul Embassy going over and squashing. It was a pretty fun match with a lot of good spots. Go out and check this out. Whether it was Canadian destroyers or high flying spots, there was everything in here for a main event. And this was well deserved to have the showcase and the time given for a main event.
100% agree, man. Yeah, this was exceeded my expectations left and right. It definitely looked like Andretti, Darius, and AR Fox had been watching tape on the Embassy, because midway through the match, they had an answer for everything they were throwing at them. I was super impressed. This match was so much fun. Great main event.
Yeah, and it was, like I said, the biggest thing is that they need to work on throughout this is building up and making this 6-man division feel meaningful, or just combining these titles with House of Black. Because until then, this is the first time I've been watching this where it was like, all right, cool. Like, these titles feel like they mean something. And I was able to immerse myself in the story of, damn, maybe Andretti, AR Fox, and Darius Martin are going to walk away with this. Because too many times on this ROH program where we see AR Fox get a title match, and like, yeah, it's a good match, and you have the near falls, and there's a chance in your mind, I guess, to suspend belief. But the fact there's spoilers and it's tape, like, you can think that. But if there was a second here that I was like, I really avoided spoilers, I've been so busy, maybe they actually lost because they want to separate them. But I think, like we said before, Death Before Dishonor, it's going to be the Righteous versus the Embassy, and I think the 6-man titles will be better for it.
Yeah, man, same here. It really, they had me thinking multiple times tonight we were going to see new champs, which is exactly what, if they want to keep this 6-man division alive, that's what we need, is the belief that it can come off these guys and a little bit of story.
So let's get to top honors and talk about what our favorite match of these 11 were. All right, Colton, top honors for the 11 matches here. Orlando, 10 being Orlando, 1 being Colorado Springs. For you, what was the match of the night and why?
Match of the night, when I thought it was going to be the Pure Rules match, but honestly, the main event kind of stole the show for me, man. It was, like you said, a lot of great spots. It was super exciting. I mean, it really, the energy level in it felt like a main event. And, I kind of going into it, I mean, and maybe it was for me because my expectations were a little bit lower of it than what it delivered on. But man, yeah, I thought it was a great showing from both teams. There wasn't a single person on either trio's team that I thought was the weakest link. I thought everybody got their shit in between Khan, Toa, and Brian Cage, and then same thing for Action Andretti, Darius Martin, and AR Fox. This was a showcase. This could have been a pay-per-view match easily. Anywhere for this could have been a pay-per-view level match, and it was a ton of fun, man. And it was also, the amount of spots that they packed into this match started at like 8:53 and it ran about 10-11 minutes to the dot, man. And I was really impressed with it. It was a really fun main event.
Yeah, that was my match tonight as well. I think you perfectly surmised everything what I was thinking as well. Pay-per-view quality match, and it felt like a main event. Our biggest critique, and there's been weeks that we've had matches that feel like main events, and you can go back in the archives and check us out and talk about them, but it's kind of rare. And I think this match really felt in the friendly confines of the Orlando Universal tapings. It's hard to replicate a big match feel, but this one had it, and I enjoyed it, and I thought it was great. And I think the World 6-Man Championship should be a priority to rehabilitate, to make them feel like they're important again. And there's some work to be done, but this is a step in the right direction for sure. All right, let's get into honorable mentions, where we talk about the match I assigned for you last week, and I have a new match for you to check out this week. All right, for honorable mention, as always, I give a match to recommend to Colton, and he gives me feedback on it the next week. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, in my notes, I suggested 2012's Best in the World pay-per-view from Hammerstein Ballroom, Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly, and I wanted to give you an Adam Cole match based on where we are in AEW canon, with Adam Cole getting a shot eventually at MJF and being sort of highlighted. But what were your thoughts on this match from over 10 years ago at this point?
Yeah, man. This match was great. This was a hybrid fighting rules match, which I had never heard of that term before, and I don't know if this might have been one of the few times it was ever used in ROH, from what I could find. But man, this was a quicker match for some of the ones I've gone back and watched. It was a 15-minute time limit. It went pretty much to the time limit, but man, this was a fucking brawl, dude. I mean, this was a Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole both. I mean, I would go as far as to say they're both in their prime now, but I mean they were really young, hungry, super hot. I mean Adam Cole's he had a little bit more beef on him at this point, man. Like this was they were both really in a high spot in their careers, and dude, this was a strike fest. I mean, they just beat the living shit out of each other, and it was a bloodbath, dude. About 4 minutes in, Kyle hits this kick to Adam Cole's face, and I mean, he just like it erupts, dude. I mean, he splatters, like you can see it in real time, splatters blood on like 2/3 of Kyle O'Reilly's body, like it's all over his torso, all over his legs. The commentary team, Nigel McGuinness, kept saying it's like he's knocked his 2 front teeth out. He did, in fact, not knock his 2 front teeth completely out, but for the amount of blood, dude, I absolutely would have believed it. Yeah, this was an incredible match. I thought it could have gone either way multiple times. Love both of these guys. I kind of wish I had seen this match earlier because I was a huge fan of the Undisputed Era and NXT, but for the longest time, Kyle O'Reilly was like not my favorite guy in that stable. And seeing this match would have definitely given me a little bit more respect for him early on because, man, yeah, the guy is a super stiff worker. Adam Cole gets the win here. Really, really good match. It was third match on the card. I actually didn't do this one on YouTube. Watched this one on the on Honor Club, and yeah, I was like, man, this is a real banger for third match on a pay-per-view. Kind of stole the show. I kind of would hate to be the match following this one.
Yeah, and I think this was the match that really put both of them on the radar of other promotions as far as what they should do. And man, I love this match, and I try to fit a theme as well. And Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly, and the way a lot of these guys brought into AEW, you can make the list is pretty long as far as people not presented in the same way we thought they would, and Adam Cole probably being the top of that list. And I think they're doing a better job, and last night was a good example of it where he felt like a main eventer, and that match was awesome, and it feels like he's getting ready to take the title off MJF down the line, whether it be a month from now or 3 months from now. But this is the Adam Cole we need, man. Like this is like the energy we need to have of Adam Cole. And you can tell Tony Khan is a legacy wrestling fan where he was watching these live and in person like a lot. I mean, he probably was in the building for this one where when he brings these guys in, he has in his mind what they've accomplished and he knows. And similar to like when we hear about the complaints about Forbidden Door, when they don't show the video packages and you're expecting fans to know things. When you know the history and you have now watched that match, now it's in your brain when you see Adam Cole. It's impossible to not think of that person when you see him. And I'm hoping that when you watched him last night, a piece of you saw a little bit of what Adam Cole was in ROH that I think everybody needs to see. And I think it's AEW's job now to make everybody see that because not everyone's going to do the research and find stuff that built Adam Cole's legacy across the different promotions, whether it be New Japan or ROH or elsewhere. But this just shows like he can be presented in a way, like you said, third match here and stole the show. And this is just one example of it. There's so many matches across ROH and New Japan Pro Wrestling that he was the hottest commodity. There's a reason he wound up in WWE as he was the de facto like hottest star in NXT for a bit. And I think people forget that. And I think it's important to go back and check it out. And I mean, maybe even Adam Cole and Tony Khan should go back and check it out and tap into what was there and what was working because they're on the right track. But I think it's really important to really set the stage to make him feel like a big deal and make him have a lot of momentum. The crowd was behind him last night, which I enjoyed. And, MJF they had an awesome match. So no complaint here. But as far as how we got there, man, it was a jagged road. There was not a lot to be, there's not a lot of momentum on Adam Cole's side because injury aside, it was just presentation wise. Whether you go to the Orange feud or anything else happening when he was tied up with the Elite, it just all felt discombobulated. And I think they're finally on the right track and, long-winded, but this match is an example of like what he can do even 10 years ago.
Yeah. I need to see this maniac side of Cole a little bit going into this feud.
So the match I recommended today, and I want to tie it into Forbidden Door. This was before Forbidden Door. ROH was working and had a huge working relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling. This was a joint event called ROH New Japan Pro Wrestling War of the Worlds 2017. Took place on May 12th. It's a match between Will Ospreay and Jay White. And this was a much younger version of both these guys. And both, as we know, exceptionally talented, fast-paced guys that can go and do whatever and work any different styles. But they were not quite at the level of being considered best in the world at this point of their careers. Amazing acrobatics and athleticism, perfect timing, technique throughout this match, and the selling of this match, seeing the two of these guys work together, it's awesome. I just like, I don't know, tied with Forbidden Door, I think ROH deserves a lot of credit for where we are in AEW and having AEW. And I go back to that, and I have the poster right over there on my wall of the Super Show at MSG with ROH and New Japan Pro Wrestling. I think ROH has a pivotal, they're not even just like the legacy that holds a lot of the full match catalogs of all these great wrestlers. They were the launch point to, I mean, people forget the original All In was involving ROH, like, and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Like, that, what people need to remember, that ROH had such a pivotal point here. And I'm glad they're in Tony Khan's hands. And this is an example of a match that lives. I mean, I think I would say people forget this match even happened back in 2017. So I'm interested to see what you say about this. Will Ospreay has gotten light years better, as has Jay White in the past 6 years, but they're still amazing to watch and go at it in this match.
Yeah, man, I see these two names and I automatically think match of the year contenders. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing this one, especially younger versions of both these guys.
So let's get into the final handshake, wrap it up, talk about next week and what else is going on in the tavern, get the mullet update from Colton. All right, final handshake here. And we apologize for starting so late tonight because, I mean, we tape right after it ends. But as we mentioned, it went a little bit long. I think we ended like 9:15, started at 9:20. So here we are, an hour 20 in. You do the math. So Colton, next week, we'll be talking about the ROH weekly TV show. Maybe we'll have more news on what happened at Death Before Dishonor. Before I get into my shilling for things going on at Acefield Retro, give me a little bit what's going on at Mullet.mania and the Kentucky Waterfall and your plans for the weekend of Collision. Hype that up again.
Dude, this mullet is on its way to Chicago to the United Center, man. I haven't been to the United Center in quite some time. I lived in Chicago for a couple of years, so I'm excited to go back to my old stomping grounds and take my dad to his first AEW event. So this will be my third. Yeah, I'm pretty stoked, man. It should be a good one. I'll have a little report next week for sure to let it know. You know, they haven't announced the. I'm excited to come back and watch it too, because they haven't announced who the announce team's going to be, who the commentary is going to be. So I'm hoping it's a not the same crew as Dynamite, even though I love Excalibur, Taz, and Shibani. I think it's its own show. It needs its own voice. So yeah, that's what we got going on, man. We're hitting the road Saturday and coming back Saturday night.
Amazing. So you guys can also check me out at Acefield Retro. Got stuff going on. Remarkable Wrestling, rocking the shirt tonight. Space is the place, July 8th, Deer Park, New York. Come check it out. Buy tickets. It's in my link tree. It's also at Remarkable_Wrestling on Instagram. Please show up for the event. Thank you for everyone that showed up Brooklyn Comic-Con this weekend. Had a great time. For the mini pop-up event, we had 4 matches. Anthony Yangone and Gabriel Sky tore it up. And the other 3 matches were great too. But that main event was just absolutely epic. It was an honor to call both those matches. I'll be at some wrestling events this weekend. SWA on Friday. Not doing any table, unofficial business, handing out some flyers and stuff for Remarkable. But maybe NYWC on Saturday. My boy Joey Conway getting a shot at the Big O for the NYWC Championship, and the Slime Balls getting a shot at the tag title. So I'm going to try to be in the building. Of course, it's Father's Day this weekend, so got to make it work and all that. Got some other future bookings in the future. I can't say they're not definite plans yet, but be working with other promotions, ring announcing soon. So Acefield Retro is going to be a traveling band soon. So we'll see what happens as far as we're going to be hitting towns and making dates and all, whatever they say about that. But you guys can check us out Wrestling Tonight, Monday at 7 p.m., Tuesday, the audio drop. Of course, Shot of Nostalgia this Friday. Tomorrow night, I'll be Mr. Solo Dolo by myself talking about Capital Carnage, the UK only event, and 2 Raws as we kind of wrap up 1998. We have 2 more episodes following this one, so stay tuned for that. Hopefully, Bellcast will be back with me. And then season 4, Colton, you'll be right in the fold. We're going to be recording Sunday nights. talking about Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Will drop on Fridays at 7 p.m., the usual spot. Audio will be on Saturday morning, so you guys don't want to miss it. So much going on. Great content. I appreciate all the love and support. And also make sure you guys go to theturnbuckletavern.com, buy some shirts and check out everything we're doing. And we continue to give out free content and all that good stuff. Buy some anything, some good stuff down the pipe. We can't announce them yet, but stay with us. We're growing exponentially week after week. The Instagram, the YouTube, join the community. And it was great at Brooklyn Comic-Con and also at, the wrestling shows this weekend. I was at NYWC on Friday last week, and I was also at VPW with the Turnbuckle Tavern table, just to be able to come up to me and say how much they love the page, love the shows, and join the movement, guys. There's a lot going on here that we're proud of. I'm certainly very proud of all the content we put out and all the guys we work with, and just with the love of pro wrestling that we continue to drive towards whatever the final destination of this is. I love being a part of this. And Colton, like I said, it's a pleasure doing this every Thursday with you. It's going to be awesome doing it again. We get another 2 hours of content because Shot Nostalgia, we don't play, man. It's 2 hours of content. We got to get through all of it.
Yeah, man, we got 7 episodes to go. We got 2 hours, and knowing me and you, we'll go over. So, yeah, man, I look forward to it all week, and I'm excited to go through Smoky Mountain with you. And yeah, man, guys, we appreciate all the love. If you like what we're doing and you're not subscribed, please like and subscribe. It helps us out a ton. You have no idea. So, yeah, stick with Turnbuckle Tavern. We get some exciting stuff coming down the pipe.
All right, guys. Well, that's all we got for you. We'll check it out. And again, we're sorry for being late this week, but you know how it goes. At this point, it's like 10:35, 10:40, 11 o'clock. But either way, Thursday nights, we got you covering ROH. It's the only spot giving you all the ROH content you can consume in one bite. So as for Ace, for Colton, as always, abide by the code of honor.